Okay, ciao
Hi.
Francesco.
Ciao Alessandro. Nice to
Francesco
meet you
Scullica,
here.
colleagues from our department.
Yes.
I leave you the floor for the next conversation.
Okay, thanks a lot. And it was a pleasure to share here with you this digital stage, I have to say. And I introduce myself. I am Francesco Scullica, and I teach interior design in Politecnico di Milano School of Design since many years. And my witness in this 24 hours design marathon, digital marathon, is Belinda Hajdini. And I hope Belinda will be here.
Hello.
Okay, hello Belinda. How are you? It's really
Buongiorno,
a pleasure. Buongiorno. It's
Hello,
really
everyone.
a pleasure. Hello Australia, and hello Italy, and hello all the world. And I have to say good night, because here in Milan is night. Instead in Australia is good morning. And so in a way, this is very, very exciting in a way.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here to dialogue again with Belinda Hajdini. And Belinda Hajdini, she studied in Politecnico di Milano School of Design in interior design, and then after her graduation, she moved to Delft for an experience, an internship, and then she moved in 1918 to Australia, to Melbourne, when she is working in an important design and architecture office named Able. And I think this is a significant experience. So I have to say also that during his thesis, she developed a relevant study about the university museums and the interior design and the exhibition design connected to this category, these special museums. And then now she works more in professional fields, but I think she matched in a good way theoretical approach with a professional approach. And this is very good in our design scenario, in contemporary design scenario, I have to say. So it was a pleasure to see you again, because we dialogued in a talk 1 month and a half ago. We had a talk, a webinar in relation also to these subjects, to these topics, to COVID and the spaces and so on.
Yeah.
So it's really a pleasure to dialogue again with you. And I would like to ask you something about, of course, something about your reflections and about also the keywords you have chosen for this special opportunity. And for example, the first of my question is, how has the COVID-19 lockdown affected your life and work in Australia? What do you think about?
So yeah, hello everyone again, and good evening in Italy and Europe, because it is quite late, but good morning here in Australia. Thank you to Poli.design and the whole design system at Politecnico for having me today. This is a very interesting 24 hours live stream format, so thank you. To answer your question, Prof, the lockdown experience for me has been quite interesting, I have to say. Because I've been in between what was happening both in Italy, my home country, and here, Australia. Australia took a different approach, I think, from many other countries, and more similar to a Northern European approach. This permitted in a very efficient management of the pandemic. In the first moment, even though in the last few days we're seeing that things are changing slightly. Working from home, of course, was one of the life-changing experience and elements that I had to undergo, as many people around the world. At Hable, the architecture firm I practice as interior designer, we had quite a smooth transition between working in the office and transitioning to home. So it was quite surprising and nice to see how work could just continue normally and uninterrupted. The lockdown itself presented challenges and opportunities, as I think for many people. Personally, my challenges were not just related to the fact that I'm an extrovert, so I enjoy being with people, but also, for example, regarding work. So those face-to-face meetings, brainstorming or workshop in the workplace, but also other little elements like the material library, which for an interior designer is quite a fundamental element. At the moment, I have samples all scattered around my living room, so you cannot see it, but it's everywhere. So being at home 24/7 and not having different spaces to conduct work was definitely a challenge. And right now, for example, I'm working from my living room, so there's not really that separation between work and living. So definitely the home work environment is one of those elements that mostly will be subject to transformation in the future, as we have already touched it on in conversation with the webinar last month with you, Francesco.
Yeah.
On the other side, there has been room for many opportunities as well, like this one. So webinars, talks, a lot of occasions for conversation. And this means new opportunities of contact and knowledge in the whole design community, I think, despite everything being remote. And I find it incredible.
Yes, I think that it has been a fantastic time in a way. It was a tragedy, of course, this pandemic. But on the other side, we have to say that we match more the digital dimension and the virtual dimension with the real dimension. So in a way, also what we are doing now is extraordinary because we are in our homes in different parts of the world, but everybody is connected in a big network. And so this is, I think, one of the most important aspect of this tragedy, I have to say. But we try to see also some positive elements. We need to see some positive elements. So it's necessary for us. Okay. And according, I would like to underline also to output a consideration you did before when you explain how it was not so easy to work as an interior designer staying at home because, for example, you miss the material library. I think a material library is something which is very, very important for an interior designer, not only for an interior designer, for a designer, generally for an architect and so on. So, of course, you couldn't have in your home the material library of the able office. I think it was quite impossible.
I'm building a little one.
Yes, of course.
So behind the screen, there's
yes,
there's one little.
yes, of course, obviously. And I think that we can try to have a digital material library, but it's not the same thing. So sometimes it's really really important to have the
the tactile element is very important. So and seeing things of course with different lightings is just a different experience from the screen. So
yes, it's different. In fact, it's very different. And we go to your keyword because I think it's connected to this topic, to the topic we are talking about, presence. Presence, and what does this keyword mean in relation to design and lockdown, and why you have chosen this keyword?
Okay, so presence, because I think presence in this context assumes a new significance. So in the ongoing and post-pandemic design world, both at work, events, seminars, everything has changed, and we as designers have new responsibilities related with this. So the previously unrecognized value of physical presence now in this historical moment offers new opportunities to reimagine architecture and the whole interior environment. So from a stronger experiential point of view. In my point of view, workplace, for example, is one of those systems that could most benefit from the added value of presence as a contraposition of the remote working. So a bit of a philosophical term, if we want, but that has a practical value as well in this context. I see it as a new acquired awareness to collaborate, communicate, and learn in a given and common location that cannot be transferred remotely. So everything can be transferred right now. And we have to get attached again. We have to add value to those little elements that can just happen in physical presence. So quite powerful. Talking about workplace, I can briefly touch on what on Habel's experience. So at Habel, the architecture studio in which I practice as interior designer, we're respecting the Victorian government's indications and guidelines on both remote working and going back to the office. But we have seen starting to allow just new small critical meetings into the office space, of course, respecting social distancing measures. But this means that collaboration face-to-face acquires a new and stronger reason and becomes itself an added value to the office. Of course, in the last few days, I was mentioning before, things have slightly changed here in Victoria, in our state, but the office is reviewing things day by day. So we are also rethinking our studios across the country for when it will be possible to go back in a safe way. We're thinking occupancies, densities, but also employee experience, which becomes a key element. So I think that as designers, we have to think with these principles in mind when approaching a new project now and in the future, as is very likely to be that the future could become more remote than what we currently think. So the added value of experiential and usability of space becomes very important.
Yes, and I think that you're true, because I think the workspace will be more affected, more influenced by this time we are living now, because I think that presence is something which we have to know, we have to consider when we think to a workspace and an office, because it's a place in which people are going to meet and to exchange and to develop relations, and not only to develop their own work. I think that this we can be able now to do in many other places, but probably the new office of the future will be more and more the places in which these exchanges between people and experience will be more and more important for the community, for a brand, and for a group of people. And so I think that in a way we have also to match in the new office. I think that we will see a sort of relation between the digital dimension and the reality, the presence. The presence will be very important, but probably also the digital dimensions, and so the connections with the people. Probably we will be able to manage meetings with the people from another part of the world, and so on. And I think this will influence deeply the office design in the future. Yes. Okay. And
no, it's definitely one of those themes that especially now has been explored so widely all around the world, workplace and what is going to happen with workplace. So I just wanted to give a different reinterpretation of with this keyword of what is, in my point of view, going to change or going to evolve. As you were saying, just this contraposition between technology and being physically present. So seeing technology as an opportunity instead of an enemy. Technology as an opportunity to make new things arise or new experiences arise. So I think we touched a good point.
Yeah, yes, this is really. Technology will be more and more important, but also the physical relation between among peoples will be more and more important in all spaces, but above all in a workspace. And the third question is, in relation to your experience during lockdown, what has design and designers learned generally from this emergency? Do you think Australia can develop different approaches and answers in the design field respect to other parts of the world? I think that this is a quite interesting question, because you are Italian. In a way, you have a culture, an Italian cultural background, but I remember that you was born in Tirana, in Albany, so you are you also show a sort of cultural diversity, multicultural position, and so on. And I think that it's important to understand your point of view in relation to this topic. What do you think about?
Thank you, Prof. I think the whole design community here in Australia has been incredibly resilient during this time. There have been many opportunities for discussion, connection, and talk about the future, just trying to go beyond the difficulties that the whole industry is going through right now, as everywhere, I would think. But we have to remind ourselves that Australia is quite in quite an isolated position compared to more central countries in Europe, for example, and relies specifically on different countries, external continents, for material supply, furniture, and for the whole design community. Europe and the international context for Australia has a strong value. So this is quite a critical moment, but I think Australia now has the incredible opportunity to establish a localized and more local design and manufacture scene. And one of the approaches could definitely align with carbon neutrality, as Hebel and many other architectural practices around the country right now are doing too. So we have all seen the impact that COVID-19 has had on the environment. But we still need to remind ourselves that there's more to do. So definitely concentrating on green practices, processes, and materials, and the distance that these materials have often to travel. We find ourselves specifying often materials coming from all around the world, and maybe considering green practices in smaller other things, but we have to think of the whole system, of the integrity of the whole system. So yeah, I found this fundamental going onwards, and from as said before, external finishes, interior finishes, furniture, etc. Everything will need to undergo a stronger consideration compared to the past. And hopefully Australia can be one of the countries to lead this green change. An incredible opportunity to establish something personal, something with a stronger identity. And I think this would be a winning approach.
I think that Australia can play an important role in this, because the importance of environment, the importance of a green attitude in the design field. I think that this is something that we know since many years, but now we have to stress more for what it happened, also connected to this pandemic, and also environment will be more and more important, and to pay attention to environment and to a green way of living and of designing, and this is very important. I think that Australia in this is more advanced than other countries, I have to say. Probably more than Italy, I don't know, more than other states. I don't know, I suppose.
Depends. For some things, for others, everyone has his own.
Probably, I think that the Australians, maybe they have a more currency in their way of living in relation to a green way of living and a green attitude, a respect for environment and so on, because nature is so important in Australia, and I think it's a really an heritage, an important heritage you have, and so you have to protect this heritage. And also I think that design can be a key in order to protect more this heritage, this natural heritage that you have. You have said also something very interesting. Then probably after this phenomena, this time we are living, that Australian designers, maybe they will take more attention to the local features of the countries, of the environment, of their culture. And so this is also a way to understand a more relation, a strongest relation with their cultural identity. And this is very, 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 very important against a world in which I think that in the last years, maybe we had a too global approach also in design. We have to reconsider the approach in design, looking more, according to my opinion, to the local characteristics, local features of many sites, of many world, as Australia in a way. So I think it's very important. It's a very important point today to say. We are in a global dimension, and we are doing an experiment in a way which reveals our global dimensions, but we have to respect our identities, our cultural identities, our environmental identities, and so on. So thanks for these considerations, because it's very important.
I'm so happy that this message could pass through, could be visible and could be a strong message from Italy as well, because it's a very hot point in Australia. But I think there is, it is happening, a change, but I think there is still more to do. So it's good to talk about it, to stress this idea, and probably, this isolation will bring to Australia a new opportunity to establish stronger identity.
Because sometimes where you are in an isolation, probably you are forced to think more about, to reflect more, because sometimes in the last years, I think we didn't reflect so much. So we lived in a very fast way, and so on. And so this is an opportunity. It can be an opportunity. And so let's go to the fourth question. What are you going to retain from this in the future, and how do you think things will change in relation to the workplace and remote working?
Okay, so something that we have to take on from this lockdown experience, as touched before as well, is the extraordinary value of technology in our daily lives. So we have all been able to work, connect, and make sure that things would go as smoothly as possible from the beginning. So this incredible rush from the last weeks of March till now, technology has been this factor, this continuous factor throughout this time. So definitely something to work on and implement further in the future. And I'm sure is happening way quicker than what we imagine, and even what we're talking on right now. But yes, I think that I think of technology itself and remote being as an opportunity for new real life experiences to arise. So what we were saying before as well, not seeing technology as an external element, almost to demonize, but yes, almost an antithesis in which to allow new experiences to happen. So indeed, experience is born from the simple fact of being physically present in a specific time and location. That could be event, exhibition, seminar, or simply, as mentioned before, work. A reason that allows me to move from my comfortable remote working at home or 3D online exhibition and commute to get from A to B and etc. So we will need a strong reason to do this. We will need a stronger alternative to the comfort of our homes and something that cannot be transferred remotely, so that physical, tactile experience and human social experience that we as social beings need. And I think experience that has come out pretty often in this talk is another keyword, because especially in the workplace, as we were saying before, there are few elements that can change the user of the space experience. Some practical examples of these added values in the office environment could be as simple as better and enhanced services, like, for example, end-of-trip services to involve employees to reach work by bike or just to go to exercise in the lunch break. I see this as an added value, for example, but also more and quick collaboration meeting area points, focus spaces to do quiet work like libraries and tech areas. Of course, curated interiors and environmental factors will offer a plus experience in the whole office, but thought as an overall system rather than just aesthetic point. Video call proof spaces, as it is likely to see these becoming the rule and multiplying in the near future. Virtual and augmented reality rooms. Ethical and, as much as possible, carbon neutral materials, as we were saying before, and learning spaces within the workplace, as this factor could be crucial in the employee experience and engagement in the whole office life. So yes, most of these elements already exist, but it is just to emphasize and stress the idea that we need to continue on this path. Emphasize and add value to those little points that we were not looking at before COVID-19, and that we are social beings ultimately and thrive just as a community. In conclusion, I see this whole lockdown experience and social distancing ongoing restrictions, at least here in Victoria in Australia, as an opportunity to reimagine those everyday life spaces, emphasize them with added experiential value and hybridization where possible, trying to be courageous about our choices and aware that remote will not stop us being present.
Okay, thank you very much, Belinda. It was really interesting to talk with you tonight or morning. This morning, it depends. And I think in this conversation we had a focus on this keyword, very interesting keyword, presence. But through this word, we had the opportunity to also to deal with and to talk about many other interesting elements in relation to design approach and to interior design, to office design, and our world is changing in the next future. So I thank Belinda very much for your presence here, and I thank the organization and the staff and my and I think I have to introduce again my colleague Alessandro Biamonti. And,
thank you very much.
Thank you, Alessandro,
Francesco,
for the organization of this webinar and this event. Thank you and good night. Bye.
Ciao, Francesco. Thank you.
Ciao, Alessandro. Ciao.